Hi, my name's Mike McCollum, doing the Mod 3 Greenhouse effect final report. I'm just going to go down the list of the final report. So we begin with test your knowledge, match each term with the best description. Heat energy emitted from Earth's surface is infrared radiation. Molecule that interacts with infrared photons in the atmosphere is greenhouse gas. Light energy emitted from the sun, solar radiation. Description of the average atmospheric conditions of an area for several decades is climate. Description of short-term changes in atmospheric temperatures, humidity, precipitation, and wind speed is weather. The process of the atmosphere trapping heat and warming the earth is greenhouse effect. Order the greenhouse gases from most abundant in Earth's atmosphere to least abundant. Water vapor would be the most abundant, followed by carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. The exploration portion of the lab. Most long-wave radiation interacts with Earth's atmosphere and is either trapped there or reflected back towards Earth's surface. Carbon dioxide, methane, and water vapor are considered greenhouse gases because they interact with infrared radiation. Water vapor, again, is the most abundant greenhouse gas in Earth's atmosphere. All of the following human activities contribute to the concentration in the Earth's atmosphere: carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. Carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide concentrations in Earth's atmosphere have increased exponentially since 1750. That's true. How do exercise 1. This is number 1. How do atmospheric gases create the greenhouse effect? I said sunlight interacts with infrared heat given off by the planet. Some light effect reflects off the planet. Others are absorbed by greenhouse gases and remain in the atmosphere. The more greenhouse gases there are to interact with the sunlight, the hotter the atmosphere becomes. Number 2, how does the abundance, source, and action of water vapor differ from other greenhouse gases? Water vapor is not affected by human activity. Water vapor has remained the same since the Industrial Revolution began in 1750, whereas the other greenhouse gases have steadily increased. Number 3, how do the results from the simulation support the relationship between human-emitted greenhouse gases and current climate change? As greenhouse gases have increased, the temperature of the planet has increased consistently. What were the effects of adding clouds to the simulation runs? Clouds help block sunlight and help keep the planet a couple degrees cooler than it would be without the clouds, which was also consistent. How might the environment be impacted if the Earth warmed to the temperature recorded for maximum greenhouse gas concentrations? It would be devastating for sure. Less ice at the poles means a rise in water levels, which means disappearing coastlines where a great deal of people live around the globe. This also leads to more extreme weather patterns and can throw ecosystems out of whack. Number 6, based on your knowledge of the human-caused source of greenhouse gases, what can you do as an individual to reduce emissions of these compounds? Drive less by riding a bike, walking, taking public transportation, that sort of thing, or hybrid electric cars. Recycle and use less water, and waste less food. Let's see, so no greenhouse gases experiment. The average temperature for no clouds was 15 below Celsius, and the average temperature for with clouds was 13 below Celsius. 1750 concentrations, the average temperature was 16 degrees Celsius with no clouds, 14 degrees Celsius with clouds. Using today's concentrations, the average temperature with no clouds, 17 degrees Celsius. The average temperature with clouds is 15 degrees Celsius. Maximum concentrations would be an average of 21 degrees Celsius without clouds and 19 degrees Celsius with clouds. H2O percentage, 70% for 1750, and today's concentrations also 70%. 1750 concentration, CO2 parts per million was 280. Today it is 338 parts per million. 1750 CH4 0.730 parts per million, and today 1.843. And then N2O 1750 0.270 parts per million, and nitrous oxide today 0.317 parts per million. Panel 1, observations with no clouds. I wrote no greenhouse gas. The temperature fluctuated between -20 and -10 degrees Celsius and averaged about 15 degrees Celsius. There was lots of infrared and minimal amount of sunlight by comparison for about the entire 2 minutes. 1750, the temperature hovered around 16 to 7 degrees Celsius, averaged 16 degrees for the final minute. Infrared gradually increased over the course of the 2 minutes. Today, the temperature stayed around 17 to 18 degrees Celsius with an ultimate average temperature of about 17 degrees Celsius. Infrared activity was high, steadily increased over the 2 minutes. Max greenhouse, the temp began at 15 below degrees Celsius and averaged about 21 degrees Celsius. Infrared built up gradually. With clouds, all 4 simulations proved to be a couple degrees cooler than their non-cloud counterparts. No greenhouse gas began with a temperature of 21 below degrees Celsius and averaged about 13 below. Infrared started out small and gradually picked up. With 1750 amounts, beginning temperature was -19 degrees Celsius, average was 14 degrees Celsius. Infrared was minimal in beginning but built up rather quickly. Today's numbers, beginning temperature was 19 below Celsius and ultimately averaged 15 degrees Celsius. Infrared levels were high throughout and also picked up gradually for the duration of the 2 minutes. Max greenhouse had an average temperature of 19 degrees Celsius. Infrared levels were high and the amount increased quickly. The competency review. Greenhouse gases in the atmosphere trap infrared radiation and warm the Earth. Carbon dioxide, methane, and water vapor are composed of 2 types of atoms connected in asymmetric arrangements. That is true. Water vapor can act as both a greenhouse gas and a cooling agent in the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide contributes 9 to 26% of the greenhouse effect and remains in the atmosphere for over 30 years. Earth's current climate change event is most closely associated to changes in greenhouse gas levels. Climate change can be observed as all of the above, which is accelerated retreat of glaciers, Arctic ice cap shrinkage, and water vapor. When utilizing a greenhouse effect simulation, sunlight photons increase in number as greenhouse gas concentration increases. That is false. When utilizing a greenhouse effect simulation, clouds interact with both sunlight and infrared photons. That is true. Global average temperatures are predicted to increase by another 4 degrees Celsius at maximum human emitted greenhouse gas concentrations. And the extension questions, my answer was there's no water vapor, which makes up the majority of greenhouse gases, and that is the problem I saw with the modeled greenhouse effect with the jar and air, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide sealed into it and exposed to different light sources. The biggest greenhouse gas is water vapor, and that's not there, so I think that would be a problem trying to get a good simulation with that. So that is all. Thank you, Professor. Appreciate it.